Hey, what's up? It's Ben from WODprep, and today, this is the ultimate guide for handstand push-ups. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about the movement standards, points of performance, and tips on how you can get better at both strict and kipping handstand push-ups. We're gonna cover it all in this video, and I have a special guest, Casey. She's gonna be my demo person because not only is she fitter than me, she's also much better looking and better at handstand push-ups. It's the trifecta. So without further ado, if you stick around to the end of this video, I actually have a free gift I would love to send you. It's called the Ultimate Guide to Handstand Push-Ups. It's a little video course that I put together. You can get it completely free if you stick around to the end. I'll tell you where to get it. So to start things off, Casey's gonna walk us through a standard handstand push-up. And we're gonna start from the very beginning, kicking up onto the wall. If you're watching this and you're already like, whoa, time out, Ben. I don't know how to kick up onto the wall. I actually have a lot more content about that on the internets. So if you go to YouTube and type in WODprep handstand push-up or WODprep wall, you'll probably find something about kicking up onto the wall. But if you're comfortable kicking up on the wall, let's talk about handstand push-ups. So the first standard of this movement is she needs to kick up and her arms start extended, heels on the wall. So let's see that. So arms start extended, heels on the wall, and then next she needs to touch her head to the ground and then do whatever push-up you want, and back up and relax. What I see a lot of times, and I'm sure you might have even done this before, I know I've done it, is you kick up and then you go into that first rep before actually getting that full lockout and heels on the wall. So maybe let's show that, like kick up on the wall and be dropping down, right? Like I've seen people do that where like they start at the bottom, right? That's actually a no rep. So she would have to come all the way up and go back down before that first rep even starts. You have to make sure that your head is making contact at or below where your hands are. A common problem is that people will maybe put a pad underneath their head, but their hands aren't on the pad, and then technically you're actually reducing the range of motion, and that's not a full standard RX handstand push-up. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to scaling. So those are the standards. It starts with a lockout and finishes with a lockout. Like this is technically a no rep because not her heels are on the wall, but also the rest of her body. That would be a no rep, and relax. So far, all we've seen are strict handstand push-ups, and normally your heels kind of stay on the wall the whole time. But the standard of just a normal handstand push-up, you are allowed to kip, which actually means your feet are allowed to come off the wall. So the only standard for a handstand push-up is start locked out with your arms, heels on the wall, head touches the ground, and then you end fully locked out with your heels back on the wall. So here's what that would look like with a handstand push-up that's kipping, and you can actually notice how her heels and feet come off the wall, which is allowed. So let's do a few kipping reps. And freeze at the bottom. So you can see at the bottom here, her butt's on the wall, that is legal. Her heels are off the wall, and then when she explodes up, the only thing touching is her heels. That's a good rep, arms fully extended, thank you. The last thing to talk about when it comes to the standards and points of performance is you need to pay attention to your hand width. The standards seem to change every single year during the CrossFit Open, and I've seen it in a bunch of different competitions, but the most recent or most recognized standard is that the width of your hands needs to be within 40 inches of width and 24 inches of depth. So just to give you a little visual here, we don't even have it measured out, but here on this mat, right? This mat is something like 36 inches wide. But if I kicked up on the wall and I'm only used to doing handstand push-ups with my hands this wide, okay? Yeah, it shortens the range of motion, but technically I would be practicing a handstand push-up that's not really to standard. So it's something important to note. We have to mention a new version of the handstand push-up that's crept up recently thanks to the 2022 CrossFit Games, and that is the wall-facing handstand push-up. So think of it as just a strict handstand push-up, but you're flipped around. So Casey's gonna demonstrate that for us, and you can kick up however you want. She likes to kick up like this, which is kind of like a very graceful side angle thing, or you could wall walk up. But the standard here is now toes are on the wall, nothing else can be touching the wall, and then what she's doing is she's touching her head and then going to that full lockout. Do a couple more, great. Pretty simple, it's just a strict handstand push-up and then come down however you like. So one way that might feel a little bit more comfortable for some people is just simply doing a wall walk, getting your hands close to that wall, and then she could go straight into those reps there, just trying to make sure that just her toes are on the wall. Another version of the handstand push-up that you might have seen is something called a deficit handstand push-up. All the same rules apply for the strict or the kipping or wall facing or whatever version you're doing. All that a deficit handstand push-up doing is lowering the target for your noggin. So your head will actually hit below where your hands are. So let me show you a quick example here. Nice. So same exact standards. Her head is just hitting all the way down, and then a couple kipping. Perfect. So all that's happening there is we've just lowered the target for her head, which increases the range of motion and makes it harder. Now let's dig into the nitty-gritty about the strict handstand push-up, and I'm going to give you a couple tips that are going to help you improve your performance. I think the biggest and most important aspect of strict handstand push-ups is to touch and go at the bottom. And here's what it looks like when you're doing it wrong. So let's show one where we actually relax at the bottom. So everything looks good, and then she pauses at the bottom. So do a few reps like that if you can. This is something I see a lot of athletes do where they relax at the bottom of the rep, but what they don't realize is they're losing tension in their shoulders. When I do strict handstand push-ups, if I relax with my head on the floor, you're losing, and you probably felt that, right? You're losing all of the tension in your shoulders to get you out of the bottom. So she's extremely strong, and it didn't look that hard for her, but a lot of athletes, if they relax at the bottom, they cannot and will not generate enough tension and strength to actually get back out of the bottom. The only way for them to do strict handstand push-ups is to do what I call the touch and go, or the tap and go. And that's where you're not pausing at the bottom at all. In fact, you might even be rebounding a little bit. You'll notice these are going to be a lot easier for her. Wow, those are really easy. But she's not bouncing her head out of the bottom, but her head touches and she immediately goes back up. The next tip for the strict handstand push-ups is head positioning. And Casey did an amazing job. She kept her head neutral, and at the end of every rep, she didn't even have to exaggerate pushing her head through. But at the end of every rep, her head is in a great position in relation to her shoulders. Let's show a couple bad lockouts where maybe you're looking down at the ground. This is really common for a lot of people doing strict handstand push-ups, is they'll go down, and then on the way up, they're looking down at the ground, and you can see her armpits, like her arms aren't fully locked out, her elbows are, it's hard for her to lock in her elbows. Now push your head through. This position is much more stable. She can hang out here a lot longer. So when you're doing your strict handstand push-ups, I really want you to think, if you ever are having a hard time locking out, I will yell this to athletes when I see them doing this. I say, head through. And what happens is that awkward lockout where we can't quite get things figured out, if I just think about driving my head through, naturally your arms, shoulders stack in a really, really good position. So let's demonstrate that one more time. I'll coach you through it. So do a couple, maybe a bad rep where you're having a trouble lockout. Head through, head through, head through, boom, and it just kind of snaps. It won't always look quite that easy. Head through, there you go. It won't always look quite that easy, but I assure you that if you're struggling with that lockout, a lot of times if you just get that head neutral and look through the window, it's going to help you lock out very, very quickly, and you're going to feel much more stable and strong. Now let's talk about the kipping handstand push-up. So a couple of the tips that I just mentioned actually go completely out the window. And the main thing is at the bottom of a kipping handstand push-up, it's okay to relax. It's actually okay to lose that tension because the kip, that leg and hip extension, will pull you out of the bottom. Good. And pause at the bottom. So at the bottom, what you can see is that her butt's on the wall, her hands and head are in this nice tripod position, and then her knees come below parallel. Like if she was squatting, her knees are coming all the way down below parallel. If she really, really was getting tired in the shoulder, she can pull her legs even lower, and they kick up. Yep. So if she had a small set of, let's say, I don't know, 5 to 10 maybe handstand push-ups per round in some sort of multi-round or AMRAP workout, she's probably going to do short, quick kips. Okay, so maybe let's do 5 with a short kip. Good. Now, let's say she was deep into a workout, your shoulders are super fatigued, you can barely get your lockout, or maybe it's a bigger set that you need to do. What would they look like? Show me some really deep kips. Good, excellent. So you can see how her legs are coming all the way down and she's able to generate more momentum on the way up. You can kind of adjust the speed and adjust the aggressiveness of your kip depending on the size of the set or how fatigued your shoulders are. The last thing I want to say about kipping handstand push-ups and making them a little easier is you have to pay attention to where your hand positioning is. So if you are too close to the wall, what can happen is your butt, depending on the size of it, mine really bucks me off the wall, okay? If you're too close to the wall, when you do that hip extension, your butt actually hits the wall and it bucks you off of it. If you're too far away from the wall, you're making it a lot harder to do handstand push-ups and you're putting your body at a really awkward position, it's harder to get a lockout. So let's maybe demonstrate both. Show one that's too close. Yeah, you'll hit your head, her butt's on the wall, and then if you kick hard, right, if you kick hard, boom, your booty's going to push you right off the wall. And then maybe show one that's too far away. So here she's really far away, and yeah, that's just awkward. It causes her to be at a very, very dysfunctional angle where she's like leaning at this 45-degree angle with her hands are just too far away from the wall. So you kind of have to play around with your happy medium. So her hands are about a hand length away from the wall, and that seems to set her up pretty well. So I think for me, I'm a little bit farther away. It could be because I have a bigger booty. I won't say it, but you know. But my hands are probably, you know, a hand and a half away from the wall. So you might need to experiment for yourself, but if you find yourself getting pushed away from the wall a lot, you might be too close. If you find yourself feeling like you're falling into the wall and not very balanced, then you might have your hands too far away on your setup. Now it's time to talk about how to scale and modify your handstand push-ups so that you can eventually work your way up to RX level and beyond. So if you've watched any of my other videos, I like to talk about two ways to modify. We can scale reps and we can scale ROM. So first let's talk about reps. Let's say you have a workout like Diane, 21-15-9 of deadlifts and handstand push-ups. And 21-15-9, that's 45 reps, is too many handstand push-ups. But you are able to do RX handstand push-ups. What you could do is you could cut the reps of the handstand push-ups in half. So you, instead of doing an RX Diane, or doing a Diane where you modify your handstand push-ups to one of the scales we're going to talk about, you could keep your RX handstand push-ups, but just cut the number in half. So rather than 21, you could do 12. And you just reduce the rep, but keep the standard of handstand push-ups. I really like that for high skill movements like this and things like muscle ups and stuff like that. Keep the actual RX movement, just reduce the reps, and then you get good fatigued exposure to getting RX reps of that movement. So that's scaling reps. Now, scaling ROM is a very obvious and easy and very effective way to do handstand push-ups. So to scale ROM, that means range of motion. All I'm going to do is reduce the range of motion needed to do the handstand push-up. I can simply add a block or a pad, and now do it again. Good. And do it again. You can see, cool, come down. Her range of motion got shorter. She's still doing the movement. It's still the same stimulus, the same muscle groups, the same stability, the same position. Like, I love everything about it. This is one of my favorite ways to scale any movement, is just to simply reduce the head target or the range of motion of the handstand push-ups. And I mean, legitimately, for people who have never even come close to doing handstand push-up, I can get an athlete into position and get them doing scaled handstand push-ups actually pretty easily. She's doing a handstand push-up, it's just a very, very reduced range of motion. Another way that we can help develop strength in those muscles, so the shoulders, the core stability, everything, is you can actually remove the scaled range of motion and do something that I call negatives. So this is where I'll have the athlete kick up, they get into position, and then with control, you have to be it's very important that they're doing this with control so we don't have any broken necks around here. Crazy CrossFitters. All I'm going to do is I'm going to have Casey kick up, get to that full lockout position, and then let's say 3-4 seconds, lower yourself down, let your head touch, and relax. So basically, I'm demonstrating control, okay? I don't want her to get halfway down and then collapse on her neck, because then she's putting a ton of weight on her neck. But what I'm trying to get her to do is just slow and controlled. It doesn't even have to be as slow as she demoed, but just slow and controlled, go all the way down, and then as soon as that head touches, she lets her feet drop. So here is a great scaling option for people who aren't ready to get up on the wall. Maybe the reduced range of motion or the negatives for the handstand push-ups, it's not quite there. What I will do is I will still have that athlete working on the wall, but I'll just take a box. Let's demonstrate a box handstand push-up. So all she's going to do is get her toes in the box, and then she's trying to get her torso in the most vertical position possible to simulate being on the wall. And then from here, obviously she's not going to kip, she's going to do strict handstand push-ups. And I would say, Casey, if you could, so walk your hands in just a little bit more, and then when you go down, actually try to get that tripod position. So aim your head right here, boom, and then drive your head through, and down, drive through, yes, boom, just like that. One more. Another way you can scale is make the box taller. The taller the box, the harder that scaled variety of handstand push-ups, and same thing. The shorter the box, if I had this on the 20-inch side or even lower, it's going to be an easier handstand push-up modification. So one of the final modifications that I love for handstand push-ups, and this is great for athletes who might not be comfortable kicking up on the wall, but they need to develop the overhead strength to be able to get up on the wall and do handstand push-ups, and that's just the seated dumbbell press. She's gonna press up, lock it out, and actually I would like your elbows in just a little bit more, so come down, elbows in, and then try to simulate like that tripod position. So, and then straight up, she's pushing her head through, and then come back down, great. So this is just a great shoulder strengthening exercise that you can do to develop handstand push-up strength. You can relax. So I hope that you like this video. If you're on YouTube watching this, please just type in WODprep HSPU into the search bar. I have tons of videos to go with this, talking about how to develop handstand push-up strength. We have super in-depth, detailed videos about kipping and strict, all that good stuff. If you would like a free video tutorial, this is like a step-by-step mini course that I created. I want to give it to you for free. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Handstand Push-Ups, and all you have to do is go to wodprep.com/HSPU. If you go there, enter your name and email, I'm going to send you that video course completely free. And after you submit your name and email, you're actually going to be presented an offer to join our full-fledged handstand push-up power course. That's like the top coaching that I have to teach handstand push-ups, including programming, and I think we have a pretty big discount on that if you go sign up today. So, with that being said, question of the day. If you had to have the perfect workout with handstand push-ups in it, what would that workout be? What's your favorite handstand push-up workout?
Diane is a killer.
Okay, what's your Diane score time?
Oh, it's pretty fast. Okay,
I don't even want to know. Cut. We don't want that. Diane's her favorite workout. For me, Diane's fun, but anything with handstand push-ups and some sort of other shoulder dominant thing, like ring muscle ups, I would be really good at that combination, or some sort of heavy snatch. So what would be your favorite 1-2 punch with handstand push-ups? Also in the comments below, feel free to mention anything cool that you learned. Like, what's one thing in this video where you're like, huh, I didn't think about that. I love seeing those comments because it helps other people glean really useful information. Thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't. Be sure to smash the subscribe button because we have several more awesome videos with our lovely fitness model here demonstrating and preventing me from getting out of breath. And anyway, all that goes to say, I'll see you in next week's video. Peace. Ooh,